I'm writing this because in exactly 17 minutes, it won't be 3:17 a.m., and when the clock hits that time, the door will come back. It shouldn't exist, but it does. I need to get this down to tell someone because I don't know if I'll be here after tonight. I moved into apartment 412 3 months ago. It was a steal, really, almost suspiciously cheap for this part of the city. But I was desperate and didn't ask questions. The building has that particular kind of ancient quiet. The air is thick with the ghosts of past tenants, smelling faintly of dust, old wood, and industrial strength cleaning chemicals. It's the kind of place where you can go weeks without seeing a neighbor, where silence is the default setting. The hallway on my floor, the fourth floor, is brutally simple. You get off the elevators and you have a long, dimly lit corridor stairwell at the far end, and 6 apartment doors in between 6. Remember that, not 7. That's important. The first time I saw it, I was sure I was just over. It was one of those nights where sleep just refuses to come. I'd been tossing and turning for hours, my mind racing. Finally, I grabbed my phone to check the time, the bright screen stinging my eyes. 3:16 a.m. Just as the numbers changed, the overhead lights in the hallway outside my door flickered violently. Once, twice, then settled into a sickly yellow hum. And then I heard it, a sound that didn't belong, a low grating noise, like heavy wood being dragged across rough concrete. It was just for a second, but it was enough to make the hair on my arms stand up. Curiosity, or maybe just sleep-deprived stupidity, got the better of me. I crept to my door and peered through the peephole. Nothing. The hallway was empty, so I unlocked the deadbolt and slowly, quietly opened my door just a crack, and that's when I saw it. At the far end of the hall, squeezed between apartment 417 and the recessed fire hose cabinet, there was a door. It stood out immediately because it was so wrong. It wasn't like the other 6 apartment doors, which were all painted the same boring shade of beige. This one was different. There was no brass number plate, no peephole, no welcome mat. The wood was a dark, almost black color, riddled with faint scratches and stains I couldn't identify. It looked ancient, far older than the 1960s architecture of the building itself. The doorknob wasn't a knob at all, but a heavy, ornate handle made of some dark, rusted metal. But the single detail that sent a cold spike of dread straight into my gut was how it was set into the wall. It wasn't just placed there. It looked like it had been grown there, like it was an organic part of the building's structure. It looked like it had always been there, even though I knew with absolute certainty that it hadn't. Just a blank plaster wall. That's all that was there before. I couldn't just stand there, I had to know. I stepped out into the hallway, the worn carpet muffling my footsteps. My heart was pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribs. I started walking towards it, my eyes locked on that impossible door. I was about halfway down the hall when the lights flickered again, more violently this time. They went out completely for a full second, plunging the corridor into absolute dark. When they came back on, the door was gone. Just gone. Vanished. In its place was the familiar, featureless, cream-colored wall. I blinked, rubbing my eyes, convinced I had finally lost it. I walked the rest of the way down the hall and ran my hand over the plaster. It was solid, cool to the touch. There was no seam, no outline, no trace that a door had been there seconds before. It was just a wall. It had always been just a wall. I went back to my apartment, locked the door, and didn't sleep a wink for the rest of the night. The next day I couldn't shake the image from my mind. Was I hallucinating? Dreaming? I had to know if anyone else had experienced something similar. I saw my neighbor, the old woman from 413, getting her mail. I approached her, trying to sound as casual as possible. "Hey, sorry, weird question," I started, but have you ever seen an extra door in the hallway at the end by the fire hose? She stopped, her hand frozen on her mailbox. She slowly turned to look at me, her eyes wide and clouded with something I couldn't quite name. It looked like fear. She stared at me for a long, uncomfortable moment, and then she whispered, her voice a dry wrath. "You saw it too." Before I could even respond, She slammed her mailbox shut, scurried back to her apartment, and closed the door without another word. The sound of her deadbolt sliding home echoed in the silent hall. A week passed. I started to convince myself it was a shared illusion, a weird quirk of this old building, and then the note appeared. I came home from work to find a small folded piece of paper slipped under my door. No envelope, no name, just a single piece of cheap lined paper. I am full daddy. There were only 3 sentences, written in a shaky, spidery script. It only appears at 3:17 a.m. Don't knock. Don't open it. The rules. Someone was telling me the rules. Of course, that just made it 1,000 times worse. Instead of being a warning, it felt like a challenge. My curiosity morphed into a dangerous obsession. Every single night, I'd set an alarm for 3:10 a.m. I'd make a cup of coffee and sit on the floor by my door waiting. 3:16 a.m. would roll around, and I'd hold my breath. Some nights, nothing happened. The clock would tick over to 3:17, and the hallway remained stubbornly normal. But on the nights it did appear, the flicker of the lights, the scrape of wood on concrete, it was terrifyingly real. I'd watch it through my peephole, a dark, silent sentinel at the end of the hall, and some nights I could swear I heard something else, a faint sound, almost too low to be a sound at all. A soft, rhythmic in and out, like something massive on the other side of that door was breathing, slowly, patiently. Last night, I broke the second rule. I don't know why. Maybe it was the lack of sleep, the caffeine, the gnawing need to understand. I told myself I just wanted a closer look. I waited for the flicker, for the scrape, and then I slipped out of my apartment. The air in the hall felt colder, heavier. I walked right up to the door, my hand shaking so badly I had to clench it into a fist. I stood there for a full minute, my ear pressed against the cold wood. The breathing sound was louder now, deeper, and then, without even thinking, I did it. I raised my fist, and I knocked. 3? 3? The sound was unnervingly loud in the dead quiet of the building. I waited for what? I don't know. Footsteps, a voice asking who's there, but I didn't hear anything like that. What I heard turned my blood to ice. I heard knocking, a perfect echo of my own 3 knock, but it didn't come from inside the door. It came from my side of the door, right behind it. My heart stopped. I spun around expecting to see someone, anyone, standing there in the hallway with me. But the hall was completely, utterly empty. Just the long stretch of worn carpet and the 5 other apartment doors, all closed. My mind was screaming. It made no sense. The knocking had been so close. I felt the vibration through the floor, and then my eyes darted back to the dark door in front of me, the rusted metal handle. It was turning, slowly, silently, down, down, down. I didn't wait to see what came out. I ran. I scrambled back to my apartment, fumbling with the keys, slammed the door shut, and threw every lock I had. I spent the rest of the night huddled in the farthest corner of my living room, listening to every creak and groan of the old building, expecting the sound of my own door being forced open. I didn't sleep. I couldn't. This morning, when the sun was finally up, I crept to the front door, and I saw it. Another piece of paper had been slipped underneath. This one had a different message. Just 6 words, in the same shaky handwriting. Next time, it won't knock back. And now it's 3 a.m. The coffee is cold. My hands won't stop shaking. I can already hear the lights in the hallway starting to flicker. The scraping sound just started. It's here. I know I shouldn't, but I have to look. I have to know if it's going to keep its promise. The clock on my phone just turned 3:17. Thank you for listening. I hope someone finds this.